Welcome back, Stingers. Today I'm going to trigger you talking about the 3 zodiac signs that cannot get over Scorpios. Number 1 is Pisces. Pisces are ruled by Neptune and Jupiter, so they are extremely excessive. Jupiter is a planet that expands and it's very wasteful. And there is no control. There's no control in Jupiter, okay? And Neptune is the planet of deception. You know, with strong Neptunian energy, you can deceive yourself. You know, that 12th house is the hidden house of secret enemies. They call it the house of jail, you know, the house of mental illness. And there's a reason for that. Pisces are a sister water sign, and it's easy for them to gain a certain amount of access to Scorpio because there is a certain level of familiarity between the two, in addition to Cancer. And for that, you know, they may have access quicker than somebody maybe like a Libra or a Sag to, you know, their inner world. And I feel like they, in the way that they describe their relationships, particularly in my comment streets, they feel like they have that in. They feel like they're special, like they got through the gates, right? But I also feel like because they have no security within themselves, they're not fixed, you know, like a Scorpio is, so they're not sturdy. They don't have that concrete, solid mentality about themselves. They don't have the ability to sustain themselves over long periods of time. In fact, this was a conversation that 3 Scorpios had together about Pisces not being able to dive too deeply, and Scorpio having that frustration with them. Like they can go down, but then they got to come up for air. And this is why the symbol of Pisces is like 2 fish swimming in different directions, because they can't sustain, which is something that fixed energy can do. They can't sustain a certain amount of stability. You know, I always think of like Pisces as like the wall that you are afraid to lean up against, because sometimes it'll be there and sometimes it won't. So you don't really trust it. You're like, okay, if I lean up against this wall, it might fall apart, right? But with Scorpio, I know that I can always lean up against the wall and it's not going anywhere, you know? So with them, there's a mentality of like, you know, not even knowing themselves, not knowing who they are. And this is the reason that they always partner with very strong people. Now, if you look at their opposition, that'll tell you a lot about them. You have the Virgo, who's Earth, who's very stable, who's very analytical. They're very mental. They're ruled by Mercury. So they know how to sit down and critically look at things. Whereas Pisces, you know, their emotions are all over the place. They don't have this stable, solid emotional state even. And this is why they go into a lot of escapism, usually drugs, usually drinking or some sort of drugs. And because Jupiter is their traditional ruler, they can't manage it. And so they need someone, or they wish they were like that Virgo, who can actually sit there and rationalize and be like, no, this is no good for me, or I'm going to tackle this problem right now. With them, they're not going to tackle it. They're just going to hide and hope that somebody else tackles it and then splash out of the water and be like, oh, is it safe to come out now? So when we start talking about the relationships that they have with Scorpio, you know, they always mention things like, oh my gosh, you know, we have psychic ability together. We don't have to talk. We can hold each other emotionally. And I agree to some extent with that. But the part that gets tricky is that they can't stay down that deep in the water, whereas 2 Scorpios can. Like for us, there is no level of coming up to breathe. Like we can actually breathe, we can stay deep for an immense amount of time, or eternity, you know. With them, they cannot do that. They're all over the place. They don't have that stability. They don't have that guidance, which is why when they partner up with Scorpio, this is one of the things that we provide for them, guidance. Like we keep them on track, like we become the wall. So we're behind them like this whenever they start flapping around and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. I'm going to go this way and that way. We're kind of like the guides like that you have in the bowling alley, right? Which is like, oh, stay focused, right? So they get into my comment streets, and one of the things that they love to brag about is like, well, Scorpios can't control me. There's always this heavy dialogue about control, which is something that they don't have. And so I noticed this recently, saying, oh my gosh, you can't control me. Scorpios are too deep. I like to keep things light. I want to do like, I just want like to do whatever I want to do. And it's really not about being upset that they are controlled, because mostly they want to be controlled. They want to, Pisces deep down, they want the guidance. They want the wall that they can, you know, stand up against when they're flapping all over the place and have no direction. And they always need to call somebody and be like, what do I do? What's this? What's that? They always need that person who is like the tree that they can just stand under and they know that they're not going to get wet or that they're not going to be in harm's way. They're always behind somebody who can fight for them, who can stand up and not back down. Like they don't have that ability. They don't have that within themselves. And so when they say that, you know, we're the only one Scorpio can't control, blah, 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 they actually want that control. They want somebody to be in the power seat. They want somebody to be dominant. They want somebody to protect them because they cannot do this. And interesting enough, when they get into a relationship and there's some sort of falling out, which usually happens because Pisces can't stay put there. And this I know for a fact, and you can come in these comment streets if you want to. This is one thing that I noticed about them. They cannot stay put. They don't have that fixed energy to just say, this is what I'm doing and nothing else can stop me. There's nobody who could come at me. There's nobody who can intimidate me. There's no, like, they don't have that Scorpio, you know, because we're ruled by two of the most dangerous planets, period. You know, Pluto, Mars is destruction, it is danger, it is war. So we can do that with other individuals. We can say, back up off me, or people won't even really approach us in that way because we have different energy than Pisces do. They have, their energy is wide open because they don't have the gates. It's like a flex for them. So when they say that I can't be controlled and I'm all over the place, they're secretly looking for that. So when they have some sort of break up with a Scorpio, when they get cut off, completely dismissed. Now there's no wall, there's no protection, there's nothing, no security system for you. You're back out into the wild, honey, go ahead. You know, I'm not trying to control you, now what? Then they start looking for that. They're like, oh my gosh, what's happening, right? Because before it's a flex. I can do this, I can do that. You know, I can't be controlled. We're the only ones that can make you feel X, Y, and Z. Okay. So when the bond is completely broken, because Scorpio's fixed, and we know fixed energy is like, once we make that decision, that's the end of the road. Like you can bang your head all around and nothing's going to change it, right? So once we walk away from the situation, and if I showed you my DMs and my emails over the course of a decade, maybe you wouldn't be surprised at how many Pisces are always trying to get back in the relationship with a Scorpio, or they're crying about how, you know, they can fix things, or how, you know, I could feel he's hurting. I feel like there's all this trying to connect and still have that protection that they complain about before. They're usually, and I would say, the main ones trying to rehash something with a Scorpio. They're always trying to get back in good graces with us. They're always trying to figure out some sort of way to slip through the cracks. And interesting enough, all the things that they talk about, you know, being very psychic and being very in tuned, it's strange, and this is the Neptunian energy that comes into play, that even with all their knowledge, they still can't be in tune with the fact that they're never going to be let back in. And if they are, we know how dangerous that situation can be. I talk about the stinger of revenge. You can go watch my older videos. And Pisces, more than anyone, knows how they know the Scorpio rules, that they can't, for some reason, they just, some of them, I would say a lot of them, there's some who can play and do it well, and who can just accept the fact that there are specific roles. They know how to sit in their role, and they know how to play it well. And so then they get the benefits of what we have to offer. But a lot of you Pisces, you know, you get in the comments and you start running your mouths, and you're the same ones. And I actually checked the emails too. I'm like, wait, this person is the same one going off on the Scorpios. But 5 years prior, you're the same ones who are begging, asking me how you can get back in good graces. And there's no way to do that. So I would say Pisces is, you know, one of those ones who they can't let go. Years can go by and they're still in some traumatic cycle, because that's that 12th house of all that subconscious pain that they go through while they're trying to pretend that they're so easygoing and can just float around. And it's like, well, Scorpios know better. We know that through all your floating around, the deep-rooted issues are like severe psychological damage. And that's what that 12th house is. That 12th house is, it's jail. It's literally like a mental, psychological jail that you hold yourself in. And what do they do when they get cut off by a Scorpio? They go and get another one. Taurus is another sign that just cannot get over Scorpios. And this is another conversation actually that I had with some fellow stingers as well, how they always say we have so much in common. And I think people who use that phrase, we have so much in common, are always trying to use that kind of as an excuse of the things they don't have in common, the things that don't work. Now, you could say you have a lot in common with anyone. I have something in common with the stray cat that's outside my window. I have something in common with the squirrel who climbs the tree. Big deal. You know, Taurus is cut from a different cloth. They're fixed, they're earth, right? And there are oppositions, so they're here for a different purpose. And of course, oppositions are always peeking around the corner like, I wonder. But that doesn't mean that you have to try and date and be really committed in a long-term partnership. That doesn't mean that it's going to be something that's good for you. Just because you are interested or curious doesn't mean that's the route to go. And this is the frustration that Tauruses have. You know, they have that very, very strong sexual attraction with the Scorpio. And for some reason, they think sex is the thing that can really glue people together. And I disagree with that. I have always been too smart to date a Taurus person. I hear Scorpio after Scorpio complaining that they're in this 5-year, 10-year hot mess of a situation with a Taurus, hoping, first the other one is hoping this one will change, the Scorpio is hoping the Taurus will change. Both fixed, it's not gonna happen. I always knew that I would never in my life be in a serious relationship with a Taurus person. They are not emotionally deep, and they're not meant to be. They're not supposed to be. So it's like hoping that they can like if Pisces can't even go down to the bottom of the ocean and just stay there, not flop around, not like, oh my gosh, I gotta go swim around, like not do that. Imagine how painful it is for a Taurus. They're just meant to be here. That's what they're meant to do. They're meant to be right here, just standing with their feet planted in the ground and not going anywhere. Okay. So I don't expect that of them. They have never been like my go-to person to get deep with. You know, I did a video many years ago and I implore you guys to do this too, where I actually sat back and went into my childhood and wrote down how many of each zodiac signs I was friends with, just to see kind of where I gravitated towards. Back then, I didn't study astrology when I was a teenager or anything like that. So, I actually wrote down the list, and I had a good amount of Taurus people. I think Taurus was like 7, Scorpio was up there with like 7 or 8, and then it came like Capricorn. And interesting enough, Pisces and Cancer was the least amount of close friends that I had. Right? Shocking. And so I did have relationships with Taurus individuals, but I never trusted them, not in the deep arena. No. I just didn't do it. So a lot of them, because they have an extreme amount of possessive nature, and Scorpio does too. Let's throw that out in these streets. Scorpio does too. And with them, it's very different though. They are property oriented. They're second house. So it's different. It's not an emotional attachment. Taurus doesn't have a deep emotional attachment like that within their relationships. It becomes sort of like, this is mine. And this is mine in a sense of like ownership. It really is. There's such a difference between how we perceive relationships, how we perceive love, how we perceive friendships. And I've noticed that my whole life with them. And I usually chose to just stick with the Scorpios, as far as even the Capricorns I didn't get too deep with like that. I used them for what they were good for, right? The Scorpios were the main ones. Like if I really wanted to go in, those were the ones that I called, not the other ones. I just knew that instinctively before I even knew astrology. It was always like, this is not the place to go for that. This is definitely not the place to go for that, And so you have, Taurus, when they link up with the Scorpios, is always this hypersexual type of relationship. Always, this hypersexual, and they're ruled by Venus, so they indulge. They don't have, like the Scorpio does, they don't have that control. Like we have such this like ultimate control, and they don't. Venus is like, let's just have fun. Let's just do it, whatever, right? So with them, there's always that deep sexual attraction. Like when they look at me, their eyes turn like red. It's like really disgusting, actually. It's not like, oh my gosh, we have such synastry. Like let's have a deep conversation. No, it's very, very sexual. That iron grip that they have in a property way, not in a I'm going to protect you from the world type of way. The way that Scorpios, our grip is different. With theirs, it's like, well, you're my property now. Like you're just like my chair or my car or whatever, Everything comes from a very materialistic basis. All of their relationships. And that's just how they deal with things. It's not a right or a wrong. That's just what they do. But when they link up with Scorpios and there's finally a break in the chain, and I've seen it with other people, oh gosh, it's so ugly. It turns so ugly because the Scorpion is the one who could just cut you right off. We're the ones who can turn ice cold and just sever. And with them, they cannot. They need to hold, like, oh my gosh, try and take away their house or their mortgage or their car. Like, they will do anything for their property, their second house. They will do anything for their property. They always end up trying to come back, trying to resurface. Oh, Malika, emails, honey. I got emails from people I've known for like 20 something years, and I just ignore those emails. You're never coming back. You're never getting anything. There's no such thing. Like, gone, honey. And, they get in my comment sections too, and they got a lot to say about Scorpios and how possessive we are, how jealous we are. And it's like, well, interesting enough, the Scorpio's not coming into your comment streets. You're over here. You're still thinking about us. You're still dreaming about us. You're still trying to get back. You're still trying to be in our good graces. You still want that property. It's like somebody stole your land from you, honey. You still want it, I have not met many Scorpios who, when they sever with them, still try and go backwards. unless we already know why. It's just to watch my previous videos. It's not like some deep emotional bond that we've created with each other. It's more of a like, did you guys read my book, Rise from the Ashes? You all should have, okay? You all should be on your 45-day transformation journey or finishing it or whatever. And I talked about the Taurus girl that I infiltrated with and I cut her ass off. She was so angry, and it wasn't like we were emotionally bonded. Like, she wasn't a best friend. Like, she was cool for a while. Like, we kicked it and stuff like that. But when I cut her off, she was like almost volatile with it. And this is what I mean. There wasn't any deep emotional attachment like that. But she was so upset because I became like one of her chairs, I guess. And it's tough for them. It's really tough for that Taurus to break with that Scorpio. And they're always in the comments. You'll see them. Just wait for it. Just wait for the comments with the Taurus and how they trash talk the Scorpio, this, that, and the other. But I swear to you, we are like the vault. We are like the ultimate pit for everybody's shit. And they come to us. They always end up at the 8th house because the 8th house is death, honey. It's the last place you're going to get to go. Cancer. Oh my gosh. Cancers are the crybabies of the Scorpio breakups. Whew, my goodness. Go into any of my videos and look at these comment streets. Cancers are overconfident too. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. They are so overconfident when it comes to a relationship with Scorpio. Ooh, I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've watched them. Oh, me and my boyfriend, we have a sarcastic relationship. I'm in control. I'm the one that does this. I'm the one that does that. And then when he comes around, quiet as a field mouse. Ooh, the whole, hey, baby, blah, 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 and stand behind him. I'm like, oh, things have shifted within 2 seconds of you running your mouth. And now that he's here, it all turns into, you turn into melted butter. So they're really overconfident when it comes to that Scorpio connection. They're supposed to be in charge. They're supposed to know everything. They're the ones who say this, that, and the other. And we know this by looking at that celebrity couple. And I'm not going to say who they are. You know who they are, who had that breakup. And now the Scorpio is on top of his game, darling. And she is sitting around whining on the internet every chance she gets. And this is how it is, Now, I would say more so than Pisces because Cancer has a little bit more stability. They are ruled by the moon. That's a comfortable space for them. They have more control over their emotions. Sometimes, they can be, they have a lot of vindictiveness to them, but they have it because the pain is cut so deep. Like they're like that mother of the zodiac. So they really want to dominate in a way that's more of like, listen, I'm in charge. When they get comfortable, this is what it is. Not in the beginning. Don't judge them from the beginning when you meet them and they're like doing the whole nice dance. No. When they get comfortable with you, that's when the domineering attitude starts coming in. They're like, I'm in charge. I'm this, I'm that, right? And so when there's a break with the Scorpio, the cutting is so deep because Scorpio doesn't just cut. We don't just slice. We go like this and then we twist and we twist and then we slice this way, we come this way. And then we wait for it to heal. We wait for it to almost heal, and then we go back in. You ever had a scratch or a wound that was trying to heal? I have. I had one for years that was just, oh my gosh, and I just kept picking the scab off, and then it would try and heal, and then it started itching, and I would go back for more. Like, this is what the Scorpio does when we're crossed. And so you have this overconfident person who is like, oh my gosh, I connect with them deeply, emotionally, which is true. You can get a really good Cancer who connects deeply and emotionally, who's not flopping around, who's not running off in the bushes. And that's a good safety spot. But then there's some point, and I don't know what this is with them. Maybe some of you can respond in the comments. There comes a point where they start getting a whole bunch of mouth. And you're like, hold up. Wait a minute. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm the one you're crying to all day, and they are crybabies. They do, particularly with women, because it's a very women-oriented sign. And they're looking for that backbone. They're looking for that wall that you can lean up against that isn't going anywhere, that isn't going to collapse, because Scorpio isn't the one whining and crying when we come home. Like, we're not built like that, right? We're the only water sign that's not built like that. We don't get over emotional and just fall apart. We are very fixed, and we are the ones that keep shit together. I don't care what's going on the inside. We keep it together. But they don't. They kind of fall, right? And they fall onto us, and we're like right here. But there comes a moment when they like get a bunch of mouth and get overconfident. And then they get in my comment sections and they write 3-page dissertations. And they're like, oh my gosh, Scorpios are so mean. You guys are like this, that, and the other. And I'm like, hold on, wait. Because we didn't start out this way. When did it get to that point? And then I look at these different relationships and I see where the mouth started, the overconfidence started. And it's like, well, I can overstep these boundaries. I'm here already. And I'm like, ooh, do they know who they're dealing with? Have they forgotten? I think they forget in the process and they lose that line of boundary. Like, it becomes blurred and that they don't know where to go. So when the breakup happens, they're always like a revolving door. Like, they will let Scorpio come in and out, put that knife back in, start slicing, let it heal a little bit, and come right back in and out. I don't know a Cancer to this date who will reject a Scorpio coming in and out of their lives. Okay. I don't know any. So these are the 3 zodiacs who have a tough time with that breakup, honey, and they just can't let go. They cannot let go. They seem to remember, here's the kicker, they seem to remember all of the amazing things that we do after the fact. While they're in it, I'm overconfident and I can float around and I can do what I want to do and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, let me get rid of you. And it's like, oh, Malika, what should I do? Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing my videos. Head over to ScorpioSunScorpioMoon.com to book a master chart reading or one of my tarot readings. You can also take my course, Becoming Fabulous, purchase one of my amazing books, and shop in my pop-up shop. Otter Spirit is offering my viewers 20% off their amazing healing crystal jewelry. I'll put the link in the description below. You guys know I have the Scorpio pack because, hey, why not be protected all the time? All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Mwah.